Hey everybody, in this video, I'm going to talk about trait theories, and there's a few of them. But I want to point out that in trait theories, again, we're not trying to figure out why you have these traits. Trait theories just describe the different types of personality traits. And so there are a few of them. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Allport's theory, Cattell's factor analysis theory, Eysenk's Penn model theory, and then I'm going to talk a lot about Costa and McCrae's, what we call the big five personality traits. And I'm actually going to spend a lot more time in the big five because they tend to be the ones that people talk about a lot. Now, first of all, Allport is talking about to what degree a personality trait affects an individual's personality. So he first talks about central traits. And central traits are traits that usually explain your behavior. Maybe you're very extroverted, and extroversion is a central trait for you. And so I can usually describe you by describing extroverted traits. I might say that you're happy go lucky and you're sociable and you enjoy being around other people and you're talkative. Um, this is a central trait for you. Now, it's not a perfect trait. Sometimes you're tired and you're not very sociable, but most of the time, extroversion is a trait that describes you well. And so that would be a central trait for you. On the other hand, a secondary trait are traits that appear more situationally and are not really as consistent. And so maybe you're not very extroverted. You're actually quite introverted as far as central traits go. But maybe in a group setting, your teacher asks you to do a project in a group and you're actually quite extroverted in that specific setting. That would be a secondary trait, right? Usually you're super introverted. You barely talk to people. You're shy. You don't have a lot of energy. But all of a sudden in group work, that extroversion just turns on. In this scenario, extroversion would be a secondary trait. Allport also suggested that people have cardinal traits. Cardinal traits were like central traits, except they never went away. You always had it. Um, and the truth is that we now understand that there's no such thing as cardinal traits, not if you have a healthy personality. Some people do seem to have something akin or similar to a cardinal trait, but these people probably have a personality disorder. An example would be someone who is histrionic, right? Or who has histrionic personality disorder. This person likes to be the center of attention, and they like to be the center of attention in class, and they like to be the center of attention when you're all out at the club, but they also like to be the center of attention when it's your wedding and they are going to make a scene so long as it means that they can be the center of attention. Maybe in class, we're presenting, but they can't be in the background. And so they're going to make a big scene so that they can be the center of attention, even though another group is presenting. That is something closer to a cardinal trait. And that is something that does not happen in normal personalities, in healthy personalities. It tends to only happen in personalities that are disordered somehow. Healthy personalities have flexibility. And so you might be quite extroverted, but in class, you're quiet so the teacher can talk, right? You know how to control that. Now, on the other hand, Cattell's theory focuses on creating a spectrum. Cattell's theory relies heavily on sort of statistical analysis. Specifically, he did a factor analysis to try to determine which personality traits often come together and are almost never together or never are together. And so by doing that, he created a few spectrums. And so there's a warm spectrum. High means you're warm, low means you're incredibly reserved. A reasoning spectrum, you're quite intelligent or less intelligent. An emotional stability, you're emotionally stable or you are easily upset. You might be neurotic, right? And so there's a few of these factors. There's the rest of them. Eysenck, on the other hand, talked about traits that he believed were more biological. And he came up with two spectrums at first: extroversion and neuroticism. And so you'll notice in the circle here, you have extroverted to introverted, they're opposites. And you have stable, this is someone who's not neurotic, to unstable, someone who is neurotic. And so this was his theory for a while, but eventually he added another factor, which is psychoticism. And so now it doesn't fit quite as neatly in a circle, but you can see them here in this chart. And so you might be someone who is sociable or anxious or aggressive, or you might be kind of in the middle of these. But you're not going to be two completely different ones. You're not going to be someone who is highly aggressive and also very anxious, because these are kind of in a spectrum. You might be optimistic or depressed, or you might be assertive. Now, you can be in the middle between optimistic and assertive, but you're probably not going to be someone who's highly assertive and also someone who's highly depressed. Okay. Again, this is what we call the Penn model, because it's psychoticism, P, extroversion, E, and then neuroticism, N. Now, the theory that I'm going to focus a lot more on is Costa and McRae's big five personality traits. And that's usually what people call them, the big five. And the big five are openness to new experiences, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Okay. And you'll notice that they spell the word ocean. And so you might want to remember that when you're trying to remember the different traits here. But I do want to go over them just kind of one at a time. Now, someone who is high in openness to new experiences is open to new experiences. This is the kind of person who likes trying new things. They like hearing about the way you do it. It's not the way they do it, but they go, "Oh, tell me how you do it. Let's try that." Because they are interested. They tend to be more open minded, tend to be more liberal, more creative. They tend to be more intelligent than people who are low in openness. People who are low in openness, on the other hand, tend to be more practical. They like to routines and they like to conform. Here are some examples. Someone who is high in openness might say, "I never thought about doing it that way. I would love to see how it works." Whereas someone who's low in openness might say, "There's only one way to do it. It's the way that I do it." Someone who's high in openness might say, "I love to wonder about different things and analyze what would be the best way to do it." Whereas someone who's low in openness might think, "People think too much. If you want to get something done, you just have to do it." Someone who's high in openness might say, "How can I determine what's right or wrong unless I try to understand a lot of different perspectives?" Where someone who's low in openness might say, "Everyone knows what's right, what's everyone knows what's right and what's wrong. Things that are wrong are always wrong." Now you might think to yourself, wait a second, I kind of fall in the middle. Some of the low things apply to me and some of the high things apply to me. And that does happen. Some people are kind of in the middle, and some people are super high and some people are super low. And you could probably think about people in your life who are very open or not very open at all, or kind of in the middle. I tend to think of myself as someone who's highly open to new experiences, especially if it's a different way of thinking or a different way of doing something. Now, there are some things that I'm closer to low openness. Uh, if you want me to go somewhere new, I tend to just say, "Oh, you know what? I'd rather not." If you want me to meet new people, I tend to say, "Oh, I rather not." Because I am very open to new experiences, but I'm also slightly introverted. Now, conscientiousness is how much you think about how other people feel and what other people are thinking about. People who are highly conscientious care about what other people think. They also care about how society judges them. And so they tend to want to be good. They care about what society thinks is right and wrong. Because they care, they often tend to have better grade point averages. If you care what your teacher thinks about you, well, then you try harder to do well. They also tend to have better friendships. Why? Because if you care about how your friend sees you, you tend to do more things to make sure your friend sees you in a good light. And these individuals tend to have more religious faith. If society thinks religion is good, then these people tend to also think religion is good. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be religious to be conscientious. You could be an atheist and be conscientious, but you tend to care about what other people think either way. On the other hand, people who are low in conscientiousness might actually have criminal behavior. If you don't care about what society thinks, well, then I like those shoes and I'm going to take them, and I don't care if you think that I'm a criminal. These people are often going to have more substance abuse problems. They tend to be more disorganized and they tend to be impulsive. Here are some examples. People who are conscientious might say, I care about how other people see me. And so I take time to look good so I don't make other people feel bad or ill at ease. Whereas someone who's low in conscientiousness might think, I don't care how other people see me. I dress for comfort or for myself. People who are high in conscientiousness might say, I am on time and prepared because I care about how other people see me. Whereas people who are low in conscientiousness might say, I'm often late and unprepared because I rarely think about how the other people feel or how I might make other people feel. People who are highly conscientious might think, I am disciplined with my emotions and my behavior. I don't put other people through my problems. Whereas people who are low in conscientiousness might say, I'm spontaneous and hedonistic. I do what I want because it feels right. And again, you might think to yourself, wait a second, I kind of fit in the middle there. Or you might think, I'm super low there, or I'm super high here, right? Because we all fall somewhere in the spectrum. I think I'm right in the middle in conscientiousness. When it comes to work, I'm highly conscientious. I care about what my coworkers think. I care about what you guys think. It's important for me that you succeed. And so if you tell me, oh, professor, this specific thing that you did messed me up, I go, oh, no, I don't want that to mess you up. I want you to do well. And so, I'll go out of my way to make sure that I can help out. But you know what? In my regular life, I'm often around in shorts and a t-shirt. For conscientiousness, I would say that I'm almost directly in the middle. Extroversion is the next trait. And people who are extroverted tend to have high levels of energy. And specifically, they tend to get more energy by being around other people. And so they enjoy social situations. They get energized by social situations. And so they're more sociable. They also experience gratitude in a greater way. They tend to love life. They did say, I'm going to live all of my life and I'm going to enjoy it. I'll sleep when I'm dead. These people also tend to be a little bit more forgiving. They're more likely to say, hey, you know what? Our friendship is more important than this issue. I enjoy socializing with you more than whatever the issue happens to be. Whereas someone who's low in extroversion, people that we often call introverted, they tend to avoid socializing. Socializing makes them feel exhausted. And in fact, their personalities tend to be more low energy, somber, and reserved. Here are some examples. People who are high in extroversion might say, when I'm bored and tired, being around other people makes me feel excited and happy. Where people who are introverted might say, when I'm bored and tired, I need time to be alone so that I can recharge. People who are high in extroversion might say, being alone makes me sort of depressed. Whereas people who are low in extroversion might say, being around too many people for too long drives me crazy. Extroverted people might say, I love life. I want to enjoy every minute of it. And people who are low in extroversion might say, I'm not very excited about anything, certainly not parties or being around a lot of people. Now, again, you might think to yourself that you're kind of in the middle here. This is one of the traits where I'm super low. I'm incredibly low in extroversion. I have very low energy. I prefer to be alone. I often tell people that, I'm Puerto Rican and that's not allowed. Our culture doesn't really allow introversion, and they often compare it to being like a criminal. They'll call people who are introverted antisocial because in my culture, being introverted is kind of antisocial. So I can pretend that I'm highly extroverted, and for short periods of time, I can do bursts of sort of high energy, but eventually I have to be alone. And there's sometimes, especially like after work or if I spent a long time with my family, I have to be alone where, I can't even have the radio on. And like if my family has like a Christmas party and it's just hours and hours of family time, every once in a while I'll like literally hide somewhere in the house so that I can have just a couple of minutes to recharge. A lot of my family isn't like that. They're super extroverted, where they're always high energy. And if they're alone for a minute, they start to get depressed. They want to go out, they want to go do things. Now, the next trait is agreeableness. The best way to think of people who are agreeable is that they're nice. These people try to be pleasant. They try to think about other people's feelings, and specifically, they try to make sure that they don't hurt other people's feelings. They're often generous and altruistic. They will do something for you, even if it ends up hurting them a little bit. Again, people who are agreeable tend to be more religious than people who are low in agreeableness. And they tend to have more satisfying relationships, because when you're nice, your relationships work better. Um, and these people tend to not lie about themselves. These are people that, if let's say they're bad at math, they're going to tell you, I'm just awful at math. They don't like to lie about themselves. Unlike people who are low in agreeableness, people who are low in agreeableness might say, I'm the best at math. And if they get caught, or if you ask them, right, and they're being truthful, they'll say, everybody lies about that. Um, People who are low in agreeableness might be more ruthless. They might be more willing to be rude to you and hurt your feelings. Um, they're often suspicious of others and they're very uncooperative. If you've ever been doing a group assignment in class and there's always one person who's like, no, I'm not doing that part of the assignment. I'll do this other thing, right? That person is probably low in agreeableness. They are rather uncooperative. Okay, let me give you some more examples here. People who are high in agreeableness might think, I think you're probably wrong, but I don't want to make a big deal about this. So I'll just end up agreeing with you. Whereas people who are low in agreeableness are going to say, you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you that you're wrong, obviously. People who are high in agreeableness might say, I'll just go along with what everybody else wants to do. Hey, where do you want to go eat? Or whatever you want. Whereas people who are low in agreeableness might say, I am not going to do that because I don't want to do that. No. Oh, let's go. Let's all go to the pizza place. Everybody wants to go to the pizza place. Well, I don't want to go eat pizza, right? These people don't care how you feel. They're going to be very honest to the point that they're kind of a little rude. People who are highly agreeable might say, if I have a flaw, I admit it. I don't like to lie to other people. Whereas people who are low in agreeableness might say, of course I lie about it. I don't mind lying. And I don't care if people find out about it. Everyone lies about that stuff. Now, again, you might think of yourself as being very low, very high, kind of in the middle. I tend to be rather an agreeable person. Um, in fact, when I was younger, I was so agreeable that people kind of took advantage of me. And so I had to learn to be a little bit more assertive as I got older, but I still tend to be rather agreeable. I just kind of go with what everybody else wants to do. And it takes a lot for me to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Although, as I've gotten older, I've certainly gotten better at it. I have a good buddy who is very low in agreeableness. He's a good guy. He's not a bad person, but he's going to tell you exactly how he feels. And he's never going to think about whether or not that hurt your feelings. And if you tell him that it hurt your feelings, he's like, I'm not really sure what you want me to do about that. He's just telling you the truth, right? Again, we're all kind of in a spectrum here, very high, very low, maybe kind of in the middle. Neuroticism is the last trait in the big five personality traits. And neuroticism specifically means that you focus on the most negative things in the situation. Sometimes maybe you go to a party and the party's kind of fun. There's good music and there's nice people around and you're enjoying yourself. But someone who's neurotic would focus on the one thing that's bad. Maybe the food isn't great and they just go, this food is horrible. I can't believe this is the food that they're giving. And they go completely out of their way to not notice all the good things, the music and the socializing and all the other fun things that they could be doing. They only focus on the negative things. These individuals often think that they're being judged. It tends to be something that they think about all the time. They obviously experience more negative feelings, and so they're more stressed out. Now, especially if someone is neurotic and highly agreeable, or neurotic and highly conscientious, they're not going to tell you that they're neurotic. And so they often suffer in silence. They're only thinking about the negative stuff, but they don't want to bother you with it because they're very agreeable or because they're conscientious. And so they just kind of suffer in silence, and that stress can build up. And so people who are highly neurotic tend to die younger because of high stress. Not everyone's like that. Some people are neurotic and very extroverted, and they'll just tell you everything they think it's wrong. I hate this and I don't like that. Um, and so they're at least more expressive. So it's a little bit better. Um, Now, neuroticism is often difficult to detect. Number one, because many people hide it. And number two, because some cultures don't talk about neuroticism in a way that is easy to describe. For example, if you speak Spanish, it's very difficult to describe someone as neurotic without also describing them as a bad person. And so uh, all of a sudden, it becomes difficult to create a test that describes someone who's neurotic, but who thinks of themselves as a good person. My mom is incredibly neurotic, right? I'll take her to a movie and she's going to say, what a horrible movie that was. Or to dinner and she'll say, ugh, this food is just awful. But if you ask her, why are you so neurotic? She's going to say, me? No, I'm the happiest person I know. And in fact, she is quite extroverted and she does enjoy social situations, but she's just very neurotic. It just so happens that because of a language barrier, it's very difficult to detect neuroticism. Now, on the other hand, some people are very low in neuroticism. These people are very calm, secure, self satisfied, and they tend to focus on things that they enjoy. Let me give you some examples here. Someone who's neurotic might say, this is awful. I can't believe people enjoy this. Whereas people who are low in neuroticism might say, I'm having such a great time, like I always do. People who are highly neurotic might say, I don't want to tell anyone that I'm having a bad time because I don't want them to judge me. Whereas people who are low in neuroticism might think, I don't often think about how other people judge me. I'm enjoying my life, and I think other people are enjoying their life too. Someone who's neurotic might say, everyone thinks I'm dumb or everybody thinks I'm bad. Whereas someone who's low in neuroticism might think, I'm doing a great job. I myself tend to fall kind of in the middle here. I'm a little neurotic. I'm a little anxious. I tend to think about all the negative things, but I can control it. And so, I can then go out of my way to focus on the things that I am enjoying so that I don't end up not having a good time. I told you that I'm very introverted. In a party, I get sick of a party very quickly because I go, oh, I can't believe this is still going on. How much longer? Et cetera, et cetera. And I can fall into that sort of neurotic spiral. So I've learned to stop myself and go, you know what? Let me enjoy the things that are good, and let me have this conversation, and let me enjoy the song. Let me have a bite of this and focus on the things that I am enjoying. All right, guys. In this video, I talked about all ports theory, Cattell theory, Eysenk's theory, and then Costa and McRae's theory.